A little funky there. All in all though, pretty decent for what it is. It's a very, very tough paint job. That's pretty cool. Spots that bother me the most are where I bumped the gun into it, or my head. This thing is basically all prepped. Got it sanded with 60, then 150. Didn't go all the way to 220 this time. Made sure everything got scratched up real nice. Washed it with some acetone, and then just did the final wipe down with some Speedokote wax and grease remover using the blue shop rags because they're pretty much like a lint free. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting some primer mixed up. So I got my primer all mixed up in the can here. It was not well mixed to begin with, so that's a good first step. I'm gonna go ahead and pour it into the paint mixing cup after I wipe the cup out, and I'm going to mix it with acetone at a 1-to-1 ratio and probably add just a tiny bit of Japan dryer to the mix as well.
All right, we got the paint in there. We got about 10 ounces in there.
A little bit over, but close enough. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little over 10 ounces of acetone in here, get it mixed up.
Oh, first timer. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm not there yet, so we got some more to go.
Turn it to on its side.
What, like this?
Yeah. A little better, but not good still. Now that we got acetone all over the table.
Fortunately, it dries pretty quick, so that's not too big of a problem.
I want to make sure it's really nice and mixed up. Yeah, the more mixing, the better, pretty much.
Yeah, the mix is pretty important. Yeah, half a cap should do us pretty good. Should help us on this cooler day get faster dry times.
All right, got the gun all cleaned out, set up. Now he's just gonna tune it in. We're looking for 5 to 7 inches or so fan from about 5 to 7 away. So yeah, something like that. I'll try it again. Yeah, that looks...
It's looking pretty good, I think.
Yeah, you could maybe fan out just a tiny bit. So we're gonna do our first coat here, and it'll be a light coat, and then we'll do another to make sure we got everything. He's gonna start with the tight spots, most of the tight spots, and then he'll go and do the full frame of it. Got the first layer of primer on there. Really gonna be the only layer of primer. Gonna let this tack up a bit while we mix the black up. Gonna do 12 ounces of paint.
9 ounces of acetone and 3 ounces of magic hardener. We'll get that going. But yeah, basically we already did, what was it, 20, 20, 16, and 20 ounces of primer just to get a good solid full coat on the main cage there.
So we used a quart and then a half.
Quart and a half.
Basically.
Quart and a half. Wish me luck.
And a cap full of Japan dryer. And that was the magic hardener once again.
Magic hardener, yeah. Let's go ahead and stir that up a bit.
Real good stir up.
Magic hardener's got isocyanates in it, so you really don't want to breathe the fumes in. At least do it in a well ventilated area while you're mixing, or outside like this, or put a mask on at the very minimum. So really they recommend that you use a fresh air supply mask, so like a isolated air supply mask, but you know, those are pretty expensive, so well ventilated area and at least a mask is better than nothing. Not the recommendation. Just like everything else, you want to get this mixed really well, and then you're going to give it some time to activate. I think they recommend about 15 minutes, so I'm going to let that sit for a little bit, and I'll stir it up again and put it in the gun. I'm going to be using the 1.4 tip this time. I used the 2.0 tip for the primer, and these are just cheap Amazon guns that use the universal Harbor Freight liner system, so that's pretty handy. You don't have to clean your cups out every time, and I just have a couple of them around so I don't have to clean them right away, which is great too. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour the mix into the liner. That's crazy. Alright. Well, you got lucky there. Yeah. Whoops. Don't do that.
There we go. Looking pretty good. Now on to the main page. Still going here. Getting the last base coat black on here. Definitely not optimal for the conditions, but we're gonna run it.
We got the next cup of paint for the second coat of black all mixed up, and we tested the cage. Basically, stick your finger to the paint, make sure no paint comes off on your glove. It can be a little tacky, but no paint on your glove, and then you're good to put the next coat on. So we tested it. We'll test it in a couple more places before we start spraying, but we're gonna let that cup sit and activate, and then we're gonna pour it in the gun and start spraying a secondary coat of black on this thing. It's about 5:30 here at night, total of like 40 degrees. Rustoleum says you shouldn't paint in any lower than like 55, so you know, we're kind of winging it. We still got an Intercoat for the Pearl and Flake layer and a clear coat layer after this, so fingers crossed for us. This is definitely not ideal.
Painting in freezing cold,
but
here we go.
Not the first time we've painted in some frigid weather, so we're pretty sure it'll work out, but we'll see what happens. So now we're on to the Pearl and Flake part of the paint job, which will be the color changing bit. We're going to go ahead and use this Speedokote color blender, SMR 3500. I'm going to mix 1-to-1 with the urethane grade reducer, and we're going to do 24 ounces. So I'm going to start with 12 ounces of this. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the reducer, so another 12 ounces, 8 and 4 again. 4. Oh, that's a little more than 4.
All right, now's the fun part.
This is the CX30 Colorshift Flake, and it's recommended about 3 tablespoons for this amount. We're going to do 2
teaspoons.
Or teaspoons, yep. And then we're going to also mix in some of the Neptune Flake, which is not how the manufacturer recommends it. They recommend doing Pearl then Flake, but considering our situation with the time here, we're going to try to do both at once because we don't have a lot of time left. And then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of this, right?
Yep. You can probably do a fatty one, which is the Flake.
Yeah, this is the Flake.
Neptune Supershift Flake.
It's kind of a heaping teaspoon. Yep. This will be pretty cool. I need to put my mask on before I stir this up.
Look at that color. Ooh. Yeah, that's gonna be good. So with this, since it has a bunch of flake in it, we're gonna do no filtering of it. On to the final part of this now, finally. We're gonna be using Speedokote 2K Clear and activator. It'll be 4 parts clear, 1 part activator. So we'll mix that up real good and spray it on. Just finishing up the clear coat here. It's looking pretty good. It's a good thing too, because it's about midnight and about 32 degrees, so about freezing. So it's a good thing we're about done.
Got the coat of clear coat on there, pretty wet. I think everything is pretty good, so I think we're gonna call it a night, but hopefully the results will be pretty good. I know there's probably a couple of mistakes here and there, but for shooting it in the dark, I think we're gonna be pretty happy with it. So
maybe we can get it to change some color for you. There it goes.
it's been just shy of a week since painting this thing, a day short. Usually it would probably be cured up by now, but it's been so cold that it's taken a little longer than usual. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that sit a bit longer before I go ahead and try to do much with it, because I want it to be nice and hard before I try to move it back onto the Jeep. Usually within about a week's time, it should be hard enough that you can't really get a fingernail into it. Checked it in a couple spots, little inconspicuous spots that you won't see when it's on there. Aside from just giving it the fingernail test to see how cured it is, you can also smell the paint. If it has smell to it still, it's still gassing off and it's still curing. You don't want to sand that, and obviously you'd have to be real careful moving it around and touching it because it's very soft still. At any rate, I figured it'd be a good point in time to do a recap on the paint job. Go ahead and kind of wrap this video up. All in all, the paint job went pretty well. Couple things, I didn't get as many coats as I would like on it, mostly due to time, temperature, and material. I got a good coat of primer on, then I started putting the black on. The primer used a lot of paint. That wasn't really a problem. I had plenty of that. There was a chance I was going to run low on acetone, so called it good with one coat of primer, moved on to black, started putting it on. It wasn't using quite as much material as the primer, thankfully, because I found out that I didn't have enough hardener to do as many coats as I would want. So I basically had enough to do one solid coat of black, and I called it good at that. There were a couple of thin spots, unfortunately, kind of on the underside of a couple spots, but really not too bad. Let that flash, then went ahead and mixed up the pearls, added some flake to it this time just to try that out. I didn't see a huge difference in how it laid on as opposed to doing the pearl first then the flake, even though that was always recommended by the manufacturer. I don't know how I feel about that. I might just mix them in the future just to save a step and an extra coat, but then you got a bunch more particles floating around that might clog the gun. So I got those two coats on, then threw a coat of clear on. It was like after 12 o'clock and it was about a degree above freezing, so I decided I probably didn't have the ability to get another coat on without things going really south. Called it good at that. Shot a lot of it in the dark. Metallics and pearls are kind of hard to shoot, so doing it in the dark is definitely going to make it even harder, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Pretty even coverage, it seemed, aside from the couple places where it was a tight corner or I was getting impatient and I got the gun too close. I had a few places where I bumped the piece, and that wasn't great either. That was very annoying to me, but it was a very cramped space, very hard to pull off. Definitely the hardest paint job I've ever done. I'm gonna just kind of show you how it turned out and go over a couple of the issues that I had so that we can all learn from it together. As you can see here, around the weld area, things got a little funny a couple times. Things didn't settle properly, or I didn't get the material clean enough. A couple spots like right here. It kind of looks like it's got primer in there, but I don't know. Kind of rejected it, it seemed like. Fortunately, that wasn't in a whole lot of places. I had a couple spots where I got the gun too close, like here. A couple spots inside of here, like this one here. Got a little runny. That was probably where I bumped the cup into it. Bumped my head into it, probably the cup into it as well. Here, obviously, I think. I generally just kind of sprayed over those, which was okay in a lot of cases, but once I was on to the pearls and flakes, you can't really just cover that up with pearl and flake. Here I had a little blowout from when I did that. Bumped it, tried to spray it thick. It just kind of got runny and funky, but whatever. At least it's got paint on it. A couple other little funky runny spots. bumping spots. There wasn't really a whole lot of problems. A couple times the gun spit a little funny, and I'm getting these little like halos around the flakes, like here. Basically, just a couple little freckles, black spots in there. A little bit in here, little black halos. A little bit in there, black halos. I think it has to do with kind of stuff spitting out of the gun. You get some like dried material, but I don't really know. I'm curious. Maybe you guys will know. Same thing about where it was funky around some of the weld. Good learning experience, I suppose. Maybe somebody knows. It was real dusty in the air while I was spraying because I had a lot of different surfaces to spray. The top seems to have like a fine mist of like clear overspray. Hopefully that'll just kind of rub or buff out. Maybe a little light Scotch Brite. Aside from that, I'd say it turned out pretty good. You can kind of see that overspray a lot more here, but it seems mostly like pretty light on there, so it should just kind of buff out, so to speak. This is all going to get covered by a roof panel anyway, so not too worried about that. Aside from the overspray, is a little thin in places on the top. I'm not sure if I can just scuff it with a Scotch Brite and add some more without cutting into the pearl and flake below, or what'll even happen if I do that, because I want to say it's like dichroic glass as opposed to metal flake that, you know, when you sand into metal flake, it'll go silver, like dull gray, and lose its color, whereas this stuff may not have any of that. So I don't know. If you know about that, let me know too, because I would like to add some more to it eventually. Might just be what it is until I got to do some touch up. So yeah, hopefully you guys got something out of this. Painting in not recommended conditions, you can definitely still pull it off sometimes. May not be the greatest. Obviously I had to make some compromises. It's definitely better than leaving it all bare metal, just rusting out over the winter. Even with it covered, I wouldn't want to trust that. It would leave a lot of cleanup when I got around to getting back to it. So thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and check out our other videos.